Memes. It's an image macro. It's a reaction GIF. It's a guy looking happy at something, and then looking sad at something else. It's Wojak or Feels Guy, expressing some indescribable feeling. It's Squidward, wistfully gazing out his window at SpongeBob and Patrick having fun. It's avant-garde, Dadaist, Italian brain rot. We all know what memes are. We see them on social media. We share them in group chats. We've probably seen thousands of them. Why do we do it? Why do we like them? Why do they seem so culturally powerful? Does meme magic exist? Well, to answer those questions, let's take a step back and talk about some similar cultural phenomena that came before the internet memes we know and love. Pre-internet memes, if you will. You glance at your friend's notebook in elementary school and behold this, the cool S. It's the coolest thing you've ever seen. You ask him how he did it, and you watch him draw another. 6 parallel lines, connected together in a particular way. Simple enough. You soon start populating your notebook with this symbol. It's satisfying to do, and it rocks. Another kid catches you doing it, and asks the same question. What is it? Where does it come from? Well, it doesn't seem to come from the Suzuki car logo, or the Superman symbol. The skate streetwear brand Stussy uses a similar thing occasionally, but they have stated that they did not originate the symbol. Well, it's easy to see where it came from. I've already told you. You saw your friend do it, and you copied him because it was cool. Your friend didn't make it up though. He copied it from someone else. Why? Because it was cool. The structure of the drawing itself, its coolness, its simplicity to be copied, and the fact that it's satisfying to draw, brought it into existence. There had to have been someone who did it first, but we'll never know who they are. We all know it because of those properties that led it to spread. The cool S is an example of child lore. It's a cultural practice that transmits from kid to kid naturally, without any adult interference. There are countless examples of this. Children play hand-clapping games, patty cake, baker's man. There are songs designed to select who is it in a game of tag. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by the toe. There's strange superstitions. Step on a crack, break your mother's back. There are zingers and comebacks. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
I know you are, but what am I? Takes one to know one. Checkmate!
These verbal instances of child lore are catchy and easy to remember. They're rituals and folklore that spread far and wide culturally, beyond any specific group of children. There are behavioral instances too. Kids make paper airplanes. They make shadow puppets with their hands. They blow on a dandelion and make a wish. They type 5,318,008 on their calculators, revealing a naughty message when turned upside down. They will jokingly invite you to join the Pen 15 Club, deceptively tricking you into writing it on your notebook or on your hand, unknowingly writing the visual equivalent of the word penis. Devastating. These can get pretty elaborate too. Children will make fortune tellers, or as the kids I grew up with called them, cootie catchers, folding a sheet of paper like origami and decorating it with hidden messages that contain fortunes. For this one, we might know the origin. An origami historian managed to trace it back to an 1876 German book for children. But this is rare. We usually have no idea where these sorts of things come from. They have just caught on over time, being passed from child to child over the course of generations, until they supplant themselves into the canon of child lore. An interesting example is the Batman parody of Jingle Bells. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost a wheel, and the Joker got away. If you grew up in the English-speaking world, you probably heard some variation of this. This has been sung for generations. If you're a 90s kid, you might imagine it came from The Simpsons.
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg.
But it's been around much longer. You might notice that the lyrics in the Simpsons clip aren't the same one I sang earlier. There seems to be some regional variation to this rhyme. Why the variation? Well, to explain that, let's look at another instance of child lore, broken telephone, or sometimes insensitively called Chinese whispers. A kid whispers something to another kid, who then whispers it to another. This continues over and over, and finally the first and last message are compared. Often, when this happens, the message ends up being garbled up and changed. When a piece of information is passed along, there's always a chance that information is altered. It's kind of like a gene, foreshadowing. It's not just kids doing this sort of thing. Kilroy was here. A doodle depicting a little bald guy peering over a wall with a long nose drooping over. During World War II, this was found in warships, bathrooms, bridges, walls, and even painted on the shells of missiles. It was found all over the place, through France, Germany, the Pacific Theater, and more. It's rumored that even Stalin stumbled on one of these drawings and inquired with his aides who this strange Kilroy guy is. Another story describes Hitler finding one of these doodles and believing that it might be some kind of code name of a high-level spy. Why did soldiers draw this? Well, like the cool S, it is satisfying and simple to draw, making it easy to spread around. It gives you something mildly fun to do, which seems appealing when you're at war. Even when the bullets are flying, you can still draw a little guy. But it also served as a major boost in morale. It became a beacon of camaraderie. When you and your companions manage to take an objective point, you scrawl Kilroy on a wall, as if to say, "We've done it." When others pass by that location later, they'll know that friends were there. American author William Faulkner was quoted saying, "What matters is at the end of life, when you're about to pass into oblivion, that you've at least scratched Kilroy was here on the last wall of the universe." There are a few ideas about the origin, but it's largely urban legend. One suggestion is James Kilroy, a rivet inspector during World War II in Massachusetts. Enormous quantities of ammo, planes, vehicles, and other war materials were being produced, and Kilroy was one of the guys making sure the rivets were good to go. The riveters were paid based on how many rivets they installed, and to prevent them from trying to cheat the system by erasing the inspection marks, "Kilroy was here" was written in durable crayon by the man himself. As warships were built, these marks were usually painted over, but with the urgency of the war effort, this didn't always happen. So the Kilroy marks would be seen by thousands of soldiers who sailed in the ships built there. The story goes that after seeing it enough times, it caught on, and the soldiers started to tag it everywhere. Another familiar symbol drawn everywhere is the humble smiley face. The origin is often attributed to Harvey Ball, the artist who drew the iconic yellow smiley face for a life insurance company in the 1960s. The company was looking for something to boost morale. They put it up all over the place, in posters and buttons, assuming that this technique would come off as wholesome rather than sinister. By the 70s, it started appearing on bumper stickers with the caption, "Have a nice day." In the 80s and 90s, it became an icon of rave culture, usually incorporating neon colors and a melting effect, to make partygoers peeking on Molly say, "Whoa, dude." And of course, once computers were around, we started making it with colons and parentheses, and eventually emojis were born. This is just the modern history though. There's evidence of smiley faces going all the way back to this pot from 3,700 years ago in Turkey. It's obvious why this has been so enduring. As I've explained in another video, humans are very interested in faces, and this abstract depiction is one of the easiest things to draw. Andre the Giant has a posse. There's some interesting lore with this one. Andre the Giant, the guy from Princess Bride and the WWF, was truly giant. But he had another strange legacy. In the 80s and 90s, stickers with his face started appearing on poles, walls, and sidewalks across the US with the message, "Andre the Giant has a posse." Why? This seems kind of weird. Well, in 1989, two students at the Rhode Island School of Design, Shepard Fairey and Ryan Lesser, were messing around with stenciling techniques and decided to stick this design all over Rhode Island as a bit. If you haven't heard of Shepard Fairey, by the way, you might recognize some of his other work. Over time, with this image everywhere, it picked up some steam in the skater community, who started spreading it around, shitposting on public surfaces. But unfortunately for Shepard, Ryan, and the culture in general, Andre the Giant actually did have a posse. It turned out that Andre the Giant was a copyrighted phrase, and there were a bunch of lawyers happy to hand out cease and desist orders to stop making the stickers. They decided to stop making the stickers, but they still stuck it to the man. They created another image with a more stylized close-up of Andre's face, ditching the original caption with the copyrighted name, and only using the word obey, a fitting reference to the cult movie They Live from the 80s. When the main character puts on a pair of special glasses, he sees all the corporate advertising around him for what it is, messages to obey and consume. The Obey logo went on to become an enormous streetwear brand. The meme lives on. Now, this one had a pretty interesting origin story, but for the most part, we're often not sure exactly where these things come from. And frankly, who cares? There are loads of articles speculating about the origins of them. But even if we did track down the first guy who came up with Jingle Bells Batman smells, cootie catchers, paper airplanes, or Kilroy was here, what then? These aren't like scientific discoveries or academic insights where citations are important. They're not even like art pieces or inventions where the original creator would want some kind of credit etched into history. They're things that spread because they're good at spreading. It's the spreading that's important, not the origin. Everything I've described in this video so far can be characterized as a meme. The term originally came from the legendary biologist and atheist Jesus Richard Dawkins. He wrote The Selfish Gene, where he argued that biologists should understand evolution in terms of competition between genes. A gene's eye view of evolution, having the types of traits that make it more likely those individual genes will be passed on. They have higher replication power. In biology, successful genes are those that result in traits or behaviors that are more likely to spread. These are things like hunger or thirst to keep the organism alive long enough to have offspring, or a sex drive to actually do the deed. The emphasis has shifted from the whole organism surviving, or the whole species surviving, to the low-level genes trying to replicate themselves. In the book, Dawkins also briefly proposes a new, uniquely human replicator, memes, units of cultural meaning or information that spread between human brains. He gives examples like catchphrases, trendy styles of clothing, rituals, and technologies. The idea is that this sort of replicator works in a sort of similar way to genes. In the same way that our bodies are just vessels to spread genes, our minds are just vessels to spread memes. The examples of pre-internet memes in this video are all different kinds of behaviors, iconography, motifs, slogans, and jokes that have caught on and spread from human mind to human mind, taking on a life of their own. The theory of memes has been expanded on a lot since Dawkins by a lot of theorists, including Susan Blackmore in her book The Meme Machine. Memes spread via imitation. We've all heard the Happy Birthday song 1,000 times. We grew up hearing people sing it every year on our birthday, and on everyone else's birthday. Through that, we learned the instructions for how to sing that song, and we started to imitate it. It's easy to see how this process applies to the examples I've covered. You see something that begs to be imitated, and then you imitate it. But the traditional view of memes is larger. It's not just icons or slogans. It's entire ideas, philosophies, or ways of doing things. Anything that can be imitated and spread between humans is a meme. You could say that agriculture is a meme, because even though it fundamentally transformed human life, it's still just an idea that passed from person to person until it caught on. Memes are also value neutral. There are good memes, like life-saving technology, or bad memes, like multi-level marketing, sell knife sets door-to-door, be your own boss, and recruit all your high school acquaintances by sending them unsolicited messages on Facebook. She also describes everything from UFO encounters, alternative medicine, divination and fortune-telling, and even religion as memeplexes, a group of memes that replicate together. Now, I'm not here to discount religion. Even as an atheist, that's not my bag. Whether religion is true or false, it's obvious that they fit with this definition of memes. They're a collection of ideas, behaviors, iconography, and so on, which have been passed from human to human, from generation to generation. Religion is a meme, but it's a pretty successful one. The insight of memes as a new kind of replicator, operating through us, but not necessarily by us, is a really useful idea for understanding meme culture right now. Humans have been memeing for a really long time. We can objectively trace memetic behavior all the way back to Palaeolithic cave art. Iconography can be found across hundreds of caves in southern France, northern Spain, and a number of other sites around the world, spanning every continent. Art in the Chauvet Cave has been dated all the way back to 32,000 years ago. There are drawings of horses, lions, rhinoceroses, bison, and other fauna. Most ancient cave drawings seem to be mostly animals and sometimes abstract figures. Strangely, only around 4% of them depict human beings. We know very little about the creation of these artworks. They were made by humans a lot like us physiologically, but living in hunter-gatherer societies that migrated from Africa. We know they must have developed techniques of painting with charcoal and ochre pigment, but we don't know why. Maybe it was some kind of ritual associated with hunting magic, a proto-meme magic situation. Structuralist theories have pointed out that the horse and the bison are the two most common figures, so maybe those are representing some binary between male and female or something, like the Wojak meme, but depicting femininity and masculinity through metaphor rather than archetype. We can only guess why they did it, but we know they're there. These behaviors are fundamentally memetic. It's a culture that spread, with people likely imitating each other's techniques and behaviors. The cave art meme is the earliest analog to what we understand as internet memes today. But we're not using ochre anymore. The way humans have been memeing has been changing through memetic selection itself. The ancient Sumerians and Egyptians started writing things down a while back, around 5,000 years ago. The writing meme was pretty great for memes themselves, because they could last a lot longer than humans remembering spoken language. The printing press, sometime later, accelerated this, and eventually memes spread far and wide in books. Later, with railways, roads, and ships, we could start carrying letters containing memes across vast distances, putting more people in contact and increasing the size of the meme pool. Then the telegraph, the telephone, the radio, and the television continued our quest to spread memes faster, more accurately, and longer lasting. Those three characteristics also map onto Dawkins' description of what makes a good replicator: fecundity, fidelity, and longevity. In a lot of ways, memes do seem to be working sort of like genes, and we've been a very useful vessel. Virtually all media and communication technology can be described as a vehicle for memes. You could say that we drove these innovations because they improved our lives, but you could also make the case that memes drove these innovations because they allowed them to replicate much more effectively. Finally, that brings us to the internet, one of the biggest things to happen to memes. The internet is obviously a big deal in general, connecting us all together and simultaneously nuking our attention spans and ruining our mental health. It's how I'm talking to you right now. Hello. But it also fundamentally changed the ordinary definition of a meme. It's no longer a niche theory of cultural evolution. It's a term we're all familiar with. Memes are synonymous with the internet. The pre-internet memes I described at the beginning of this video occasionally had some discernible origin or author, like Kilroy or Obey. But internet memes are totally different. They're closer to child lore, like the cool S. They spread informally and mutate over time. There's no ownership over memes. The question, who made this meme, is never asked or cared about. The circulators and shitposters are equally as important as the original authors. Internet memes contain memes in the traditional sense, but they're structured and shared in a completely new way. Lemore Schiefman, in Memes and Digital Culture, argues that an internet meme has three main characteristics. The form, the format or template of the meme, often repurposed from somewhere else, or part of an existing trend. Schiefman uses some pretty dated examples, so let's consider the NPC meme. The form is derived from Wojak memes, and often fits in a reaction comic template. There's also the content, which is the theme or idea of the meme. The NPC's content is dehumanization, characterizing some category of people as pre-programmed drones. And finally, there's the stance, the attitude encoded in the meme. This can vary. MAGA conservatives might be depicting leftists as NPCs for wearing masks during COVID, or leftists might be depicting MAGA conservatives as NPCs for blindly defending whatever insane thing Trump has most recently said. Now we have the tools to start analyzing memes. The form of a meme can almost always be boiled down into very basic conceptual structures. There are an incredible amount of memes that present a decision between two things. The simplest is the guy looking happy about one thing and disappointed about another. The Drake meme does the same thing, and these are pretty cut and dry. This thing good, this other thing bad. Extracting the content and the stance of the meme is trivial, but some communicate more nuance. The distracted boyfriend meme presents one thing, the girlfriend, as the socially correct option, but the protagonist is tempted by the other girl, the incorrect option, while he's reprimanded by the authority figure. The Winnie the Pooh meme presents one option as boring, and the other is better, but with an air of pretentiousness and elitism. The guy panicking over 2 buttons makes no value judgment about the correctness of each option, and is presenting them as a difficult choice. The character at the fork in the road is standing looking at one option, which is obviously good, and another which is obviously bad. The sad guy and the happy guy on the bus is not a decision of action, but of attitude. The scenario is the same, but the internal interpretation or feelings are contrasted. Many meme forms also act as ways of communicating specific psychological states associated with ideas. Feeling held back, feeling despondent, feeling morbid, feeling embarrassed, feeling excited, feeling insane or conspiratorial. Some communicate more complex human experiences. The bike fall meme depicts self-sabotage. The thinking about other women meme simultaneously taps into jealousy and incorrect theory of mind, because the man is always depicted thinking about something completely different. The "is this a pigeon" meme communicates a failure of correct categorization, which is implicitly an act of categorization. The "they don't know" meme depicts not only social alienation, but also often portrays the other partygoers as open and accepting, while the alienated Wojak is completely avoidant. The domino effect meme communicates the idea of small events eventually cascading into enormous consequences. We also have memes organizing larger quantities of related ideas into levels of gradation. This is very familiar to viewers of this channel. The tier list ranks things based on how they compete with other things in some similar category. The iceberg ranks things based on how esoteric or dark they are. The bracket, similar to the tier list, ranks things by pitting them against each other in a sequence of 1v1s. The political compass arranges even the most apolitical concepts on the left, right, and libertarian-authoritarian axis. We also have the brain-expanding meme, positioning things from dumb to smart to enlightened, and the Vince McMahon reaction, organizing from mild amusement to enormous excitement. It might be excruciating hearing the structure of all these memes described like this, because you probably already understand them at a glance. Interpreting memes comes so naturally to us, and we're able to do it remarkably quickly. We've seen a lot of the forms repeated before, which makes them familiar and easy to interpret. But even with a novel form, we intuitively understand the psychological state or abstract conceptual pattern it depicts, and impose that structure on the content of the meme, extracting the stance. Memes include a lot of different information: text, images, videos. They riff on other media or other memes, requiring you to pick up on that intertextuality to fully understand them. It's a language of collage, and requires careful interpretation to understand. This all sounds very silly, but consider memes from other cultures. Without the background knowledge and context, they're almost indecipherable to us. That makes sense, because we're not supposed to understand them. We're outgroup. Memes serve a lot of important social functions. They're shorthand for shared knowledge, making it faster and easier to communicate ideas. We can engage with ideas or current events extremely cheaply and playfully. Making a meme is a lot easier than writing a think piece, and sharing an existing meme is even easier. Internet memes are an entirely new way of talking.
Images can be used like words. We can talk with them.
Memes are also weirdly powerful social bonding tools, drawing a line in the sand between the in-group and the out-group. If you get the meme I shared about some obscure band, that signals you're culturally similar to me. Not understanding a meme is alienating. It's tapping into a very deep type of anxiety that we evolved to feel when we don't feel welcome in a community. It's like when you walk into a room and all your friends are laughing, and you're just standing there not knowing what was so funny. But on the flip side, getting the meme is an enormously effective tool for feeling connected. This isn't real connection, obviously. You almost never personally know the meme maker or any of the other people who interacted with it. But that feeling of belonging still triggers, because successful interpretation of a niche meme affirms your shared identity as a member of some in-group. We like memes not just because they're funny or relatable, but because the process of getting it is inherently satisfying to our pro-social monkey brains. The so-called loss meme is probably the most cryptic meme to ever exist. It originates from a webcomic series called Control-Alt-Delete. The series generally involved video game humor and standard random XD wacky punchlines that fit internet culture. But in 2008, there was an absolutely mind-boggling tonal departure from this. In this comic, there is no dialogue. It's just a man rushing into a hospital, talking to a receptionist and doctor, and then looking down at his crying wife. It's an absolutely harrowing portrayal of a miscarriage. Because of the hilarious incongruence here, this led to a long series of parodies and remixes, eventually culminating into a completely abstract representation of the comic's visual structure. The meme now continues in its minimal form, often deliberately hidden in other contexts. This prompts the inevitable question, is this loss? Which has become a meme in itself. The meme demands a keen eye to pick up on this minimal structure, which is probably the most exaggerated example of establishing an in-group. Shitposting is a performance. Sharing a meme is a way of signaling your identity, your stance on some topic, and the community you're a part of. Interpreting a meme is a test. If you understand it, you're invited to the club. This may sound like an exaggeration, but it's an accurate metaphor of what's happening psychologically. The nature of memes has also changed the way we communicate publicly. A lot of the memes I've covered already are expressing things that we often don't with language. They're emotions or experiences that are too embarrassing or too weirdly specific. Not only would they be harder and slower to communicate with language, but they would also be too vulnerable. Memes allow us to communicate these things efficiently and also make it socially permissible. As we know, memes are effectively anonymous. We don't know who made them, we only share them. The stakes of sharing a meme are so low that it becomes safe to express things that we wouldn't express otherwise. It's socially risky to express feelings of alienation, frustration, indecision, impatience, jealousy, and self-sabotage. It's comparatively difficult to record a video, write a tweet, or even tell a friend about these feelings and experiences. But a meme that already exists reassures you that you're not alone in this experience, and gives you social permission to join in and share it. Many of these meme forms, by their very nature, repeatedly subvert expectations. The fully enlightened entry on the expanding brain meme and the final layer on the iceberg are almost always jokes. Let's talk about irony. Anyone well-versed in meme culture knows that there's a pervasive, detached, ironic ethos. Memes lend themselves to irony because of their layered structure of meaning. With form, content, and attitude to play around with, it's common to combine them in ways that are intentionally incongruent. This has become the default for most subcultures online. But as meme culture has accelerated and irony has become commonplace, the hunger for subversion continues. That's how we get post-irony and meta-irony. In 2016, Seong-Young Her developed this now famous quadrant model of irony. About 5 years ago, it was later popularized by friend of the channel JReg. The general idea is that as irony became the standard, people started to express sincere expressions in an ironic framing, looping back in on itself and returning to sincerity. That's post-irony. Since the current memescape is dominated by irony, it's now common to express genuine feelings using irony as a wrapper to preserve that playful tone and save face with the in-group.
Somehow in our social existence today, we're only allowed to express our feelings weirdly and indirectly. If you express them directly, everybody goes crazy.
Meta-irony takes this even further. It's unclear whether the message is ironic or sincere. It's absurdist communication, collapsing any discernible meaning and disregarding truth entirely. It resists stable interpretation and devolves into just evoking a concept with no attitude towards it. There's a very old internet adage that's apt here: Poe's law. When you're communicating on the internet, where there are no clear indicators of intent, like tone of voice or body language, it's difficult or impossible to distinguish between something being said sincerely and something being said ironically. The postmodern author David Foster Wallace talked a lot about irony poisoning pre-internet. The sort of thing we're experiencing now with internet memes was already happening. TV shows and advertising were already becoming self-aware and winking at the audience. The subversive structure of irony was becoming the status quo. On one level, irony is a good tool. It can reveal contradictions in our thinking and point out the absurdity of things we take for granted. But it's not an edifying force. Someone drenched in irony is always cool and detached, a level above everyone else, smirking down at them. It's an appealing place to be, because being earnest, sincere, and honest is vulnerable. You run the terrifying risk of being cringe, and you don't want that. The prevalence of post-ironic memes is an unconscious pushback against this. They're using the language of irony to signal that they're still in group, but they're ultimately expressing authenticity. Now, meta-ironic memes lack authenticity entirely. It's expression without accountability, because you can always backpedal and just say you were being ironic. This allows people to test out opinions and attitudes publicly, in a safe way, dodging any responsibility. Figures like Sam Hyde use comedy and meta-irony to introduce straight-up white nationalist talking points to his audience and steer towards radicalization. Since he's a comedian drenched in irony, people might hear him say something crazy and think, wow, there's no way he's being serious about that. But he often is, and his recent behavior online has indicated that he does genuinely hold some pretty heinous views. This leads us to the interesting interaction between memes and politics. Now that the internet is mainstream, the political game is being played largely in the memescape. The notion of meme magic is an idea that rose to prominence in 2016 about how memes have some esoteric, otherworldly power to affect real-life outcomes. People argued that meme magic, wielded by the shitposters on 4chan, was what got Donald Trump elected back in 2016. The Pepe meme, praise Keck, and so on. At the time, this was said in a tongue-in-cheek way, but memes have increasingly become a driving force in politics. Hell, it's why Elon bought Twitter. He knew that he who controls the memes controls the future. He influenced the creation of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, under the second Trump administration, which is named after a meme. It's a pretty old, unfunny meme that mostly shows he's out of touch, but it is a meme nonetheless. The official White House Twitter account regularly communicates talking points through meme formats. Advertisers have jumped on this too, albeit after a few false starts, and they're often the last to integrate anything relevant in the culture. In the internet age, memes are the way of communicating. It's the new language of propaganda and broadcasting. So that's how we got here. We're natural imitators, constantly communicating ideas and sharing concepts with each other. We have a fundamental drive to do this, and we've been doing it long before the internet came along. It's just gotten faster and more convenient than ever. Our agency with all of this is pretty limited. In a lot of ways, the culture follows the memes, rather than the other way around. We can't single-handedly change meme culture, but our shitposting still holds power. We can eschew irony poisoning. We can take up arms in the great meme wars, and hilariously, do actual political action with images on the internet. We can post memes that are beautiful and true. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support more content like this, check out my Patreon.